Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another hard rock and heavy metal update. Before we get started, playing in the background is one of my all-time favorite bands. This is a band that I've loved every era of, whether it was their early hard rock, 70s hard rock, to their 80s metal, to the power metal that they've been doing since about 89. This is an amazing album, Immortal Souls, from Riot. And this was the last album with Mark Reale before he died, unfortunately. But a really overlooked band as a whole. You know, most guys that are really into metal know Riot, and they like Riot. But most people know their early stuff. Their stuff from the 90s and 2000s is really good. And I really think that they should be up there with the top echelon of traditional power metal bands. But Immortal Soul is just a killer album. So check it out as we're talking. So first up, and this is stuff that I've gotten over the last 3 or 4 months. Some of this stuff has been in heavy rotation, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit. First up, this one was a gift from Metal War God, and I was really surprised by how good this was and how early this was. This is from 1977, which I didn't know that this band was that early. I've always thought of them just based on the imagery as an 80s metal band. But this is from 77, and it's really good hard rock. And it's really heavy for 77. But this is Legs Diamond. A diamond is a hard rock, right? Yeah, a diamond is a hard rock. Check out the band there. I was not expecting this album to be as good as it was. In fact, as soon as I got done listening to it, I think I sent a message to Scott saying that I can't believe how heavy this album is and how good this is for 77. Same era as the first Riot album, and I put it right there with that album for heaviness. It really is, like I said, it's just not what I expected, especially when I saw the year that album came out. Highly recommend checking that one out, though. Next up is one of my all-time favorite bands. They've always got lumped in with the grunge thing. I've never got the whole grunge genre, simply because none of those bands sounded anything alike. Nirvana sounds nothing like Soundgarden, who sounds nothing like Alice in Chains, you know, who sound nothing like Pearl Jam or Mother Love Bone, you know. But this is Alice in Chains live facelift. Does it say where this was recorded? Oh, recorded at the Moore Theater in 1990. Moore Theater, super famous venue in downtown Seattle. It's right down the road from the Fish Market. Jimi Hendrix has played there. Alice in Chains a bunch of times. Alice in Chains was also famous for playing the Phoenix Underground, which is another big spot there. But Moore Theater is an amazing place to see a show. I was lucky enough to see, I think it was Super Suckers there back in the day, back in maybe 96 or 97. But great venue. Again, this is one of my all-time favorite bands. Lane Staley is, I think he's got one of the best voices ever, or had one of the best voices ever. This is a really good live set, though. Really good soundboard recording. But you've got It Ain't Like That, Man in a Box, Real Thing, Love, Hate, Love, Sea of Sorrow, and Bleed the Freak. I would have liked to hear a couple of other songs off of Facelift on here. Sunshine, I've always thought was amazing live. But still, killer. Highly recommend grabbing this if you run across it. Next up, this one's a pickup a few months ago from somebody on Facebook. I think I paid $7 or $8 for this. And again, this one really blew me away. This may be my favorite band from this album, or album from this band now. Really good mix of 70s and 80s hard rock. What year was this? This was, let's see if it says it. I don't think it does. So this is 83. So that's even a little late for that. But like I said, really good mix of everything I like about 70s and early 80s hard rock. This is before the band went the more metal route on their next album. But man, this album just kicks ass. This is White Lace and Black Leather from Helix. And again, I like pretty much everything that Helix released. Their first album, while it was more 70s hard rock, was a bit spottier for me. They were kind of searching for a sound. With this one, you really feel them getting into that groove. And man, again, highly recommend grabbing this if you run across it. They don't pop up much. I don't think it was ever released in the U.S. This one's a UK pressing. But the UK and the Canadian pressings pop up somewhat regularly. Another 70s hard rocker. This is one, everybody's been to, I should say, Greeno, Scott, maybe the Metal Theologians have all been talking about this band. So when I ran across this, I went ahead and grabbed it. I found it for like $6. And I think I got a discount on it too. But this is Land of Money from Hydra. I thought it was good. I actually think that the Helix and the Legs Diamond are better, though. I listened to all of them around within the same day or two. And had I listened to this one first, I probably would have liked it a little bit better than I did. But after listening to I listened to it right after listening to Helix, and I just thought the Helix was so much better. I do want to hear the rest of their stuff. This isn't the album that any of those guys generally show when they're talking about Hydra, so maybe this just isn't the best of their albums. It's not a bad album. Again, had I listened to this by itself, not after listening to the Helix and being blown away by that, I probably would have liked it a little bit better. So it is going to get a couple more spins before I put it in the collection. But still, good 70s hard rock. Next up, this is one of the, I don't want to say underrated because they were a huge band, but very much mischaracterized, mislabeled. They've always been thrown in with the glam bands, and I think that was the record label's fault for pushing the glam look, because they've always been better than most of those bands. These guys are more of a blues rock, blues metal band, very much in the vein. They remind me of elements of Aerosmith. But this is Cinderella, Long Cold Winter. This album's absolutely amazing. I've been looking for a clean copy. I've wanted an original pressing. I've heard one of the recent represses. It sounds pretty good, but not as good as the original, which isn't always the case. But every time I listen to this, I'm blown away by how good it is, especially the guitar work. The guitar is so bluesy. And they really do blow away any of the other hair metal bands. They just never fit in. And actually, with their next album, they damn near abandon metal as whole and are more a straight up hard blues rock or heavy blues band. But still, amazing album. Half the songs on that were radio hits. And I still don't get sick of hearing them. Some bands, after hearing years and years of the same songs on the radio, you just can't listen to it anymore. That's not the case with Cinderella. That's also not the case with this band for me. This has always been one of my all-time favorite bands. And this is one of my favorite albums from that band. This one had a huge impact on me. This was one of the albums that really made me want to play drums. And the first full song that I learned was the self-titled song, or was the title song of this album, and that's Dr. Feelgood from Mötley Crüe. Now, what's funny about me playing that song on drums, and I'm going to digress a little bit, so I apologize for that. We didn't have YouTube when I was learning how to play. I started playing in 90 or 91. I think it was 91, towards the end of 91, actually, now that I think about it. But, again, this is the first, I had played for about a year before I really learned any songs, just me trying to get the basic, the basic beats down and stuff. And, the way we learned back then was either taking lessons, which I couldn't afford. I grew up in a very poor family with 4 kids, so there was no money. As a matter of fact, my first drum set was a Pearl President from I believe it was from the late 70s, maybe early 80s, but it was a Pearl President. It was a 4-piece. It was in horrible condition. I found some music store that would finance me, paying, I think it was like 10 or 15 bucks a month. It was like 140 bucks that they wanted for the kit. And I think I defaulted within like 5 or 6 months, and it was such a cheap kit that they told me to keep it. But again, Dr. Feelgood was the first song that I learned to play in full. And then when YouTube came out years later, I remember watching a video of Tommy Lee from behind and from the top. It was a split video showing him playing that song, and the way I played it was completely wrong. Now, I had played it live, and it sounded just like the song he was playing, but I was doing a lot with the floor toms, whereas he was using the bass drum for almost everything. And it's just one of those things, you know, for those of us that were playing music back then, it's a common thread. You know, you'll hear stories of guys that learned how to play guitar one way, and then they went on YouTube or saw some video where you could see the finger picking and found out that what you thought were all downstrokes was a combination of downstrokes and upstrokes, or mostly upstrokes. So, again, I get sidetracked when I talk about this album, but I love every song on this album. This is an original pressing that I found for 10 bucks, and it's pretty much in mint condition. I couldn't grab this one fast enough. Next, this is a cool one. I think I got this at Half Price Books. Half Price Books has been having a lot of the live bootlegs or radio recordings, soundboard recordings pop up for a good price. There's been a lot of killer live stuff popping up, but people have been pricing it crazy, $29, $39 for soundboard recordings, which I think is ridiculous. This one I found for like 10 bucks, and I love anything from this era of the band. I think I've got another one that I picked up a couple weeks later, and I've got another 2 soundboard recordings that I've had for a couple of years from this same era. But this is called Hell's Highway. This is AC/DC live on air 74 to 79. So this is all Bon Scott. And you've got, let's see. So you've got 77, December 77, January 77, October 78, and October 79. But she's got balls. Can I sit next to you, girl? High voltage. That's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Live wire. Whole lot of Rosie, rocker, and Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. All of these songs sound absolutely amazing. When you hear this live stuff of Bon Scott, it just really enforces how good this band is. These live recordings are absolutely amazing. If you run across any of the live AC/DC stuff, I would grab it. I haven't been disappointed by any of these recent bootlegs that I've picked up. And that one is on pretty cool vinyl too. They call it Flaming Orange Vinyl. Next up, I'll start with their EP. Next up, we got a little bit of Slayer. This is Prepare to Die. And no, it's not that Slayer. This is the Slayer from San Antonio. To me, it's more of a power metal band. They've been clad. I've heard people call them traditional metal. Just for the vocals, I've always considered them more of a power metal band in the vein of Hellstar. They're from that same scene as Hellstar and from Watchtower. The San Antonio scene is something I've really been getting into over the last couple of years. There's just so many good bands that came out of that scene, and even today that are coming out of that scene. But this is the EP from Slayer. Now they later changed their name to San Antonio Slayer or SA Slayer on their full length. However, they didn't steal the name from Slayer. Both bands actually came up around the same time. They both originated in '81, and actually Slayer from San Antonio kind of beat the Slayer that we know to the punch. They released this EP came out 3 or 4 months before Slayer's first EP did. They were on a comp that came out a few months before Slayer appeared on Metal Massacre. So they beat Slayer to the presses in pretty much every step of the way. The reason that they decided to change their name to SA Slayer simply is because of the label. They were on a small label who couldn't afford to take on Metal Blade. Even Metal Blade was a small label, but they were 10 times bigger than the label that Slayer or SA Slayer was on, and it just came down to the fact that SA Slayer didn't have the money for lawyers, but honestly, had they fought it, they had a real good chance of winning that battle and keeping the name Slayer, and basically changing metal history. But really good metal. I still recommend picking this up. This was a High Roller repress from last year. When I saw these finally pop up here, I had been watching them. I just didn't want to pay for shipping from Europe, and they finally showed up on one of the local sites, U.S. sites, and I grabbed both of them. Both killer albums. Of the two, though, Go for the Throat is my favorite. This album is just killer. If you like power metal, if you like Hellstar, again, Watchtower, that scene, I highly recommend picking it up. The Prepare to Die EP is on this, I guess, purplish pink vinyl. And then the Go for the Throat is on, I think they call this bone white vinyl. But High Roller, as always, just did an amazing job on the packaging. The albums sound awesome. I do like that they kept the logos true. I've seen subsequent releases of this where they actually changed the Slayer to SA Slayer. So I'm glad to see that they just left it as Slayer with how it was originally released. Again, highly recommend picking those up. Let's see what we got left. Next up, there's not really much I need to say about this album. This is Seven Churches from Possessed. I just never had it on vinyl. I've had cassettes of this. I've had CDs from this. This is just a classic album that every metalhead should be familiar with, whether you have it in your collection or not. It's an important album. Again, High Roller did a really good job. I don't know if you can see the Seven Churches is embossed into the cover. The Possess is also embossed. Just killer packaging. I think it comes with you got a poster of the album cover. This is one of those albums, I didn't like this when I first heard it back in the late 80s. It just wasn't for me on the clear splatter vinyl. And over time, I've just liked it more and more. And after, hearing it in friends' cars and, over the years, it just kind of grew on me. And now I absolutely love this album. So I'm glad to finally have a nice copy on vinyl. Next up, this is another of the thrash bands that just kind of disappeared after this album. I really like this album. I ran across this in a used bookstore. It was a little bit overpriced by about $5, but I'm never going to run across a copy of this again. And this isn't something I was going to go search in the internet for. This just isn't one of those bands that you write on your list that you have to have. Although it's an amazing album, and I'm glad I picked it up. This is the first Defiance from Agony. A gold stamp promo. And this is, I don't even know if this has been repressed, but this is an original Combat pressing. So you got the camouflage Combat label. Really good album though. If you run across a copy of this, definitely grab it. It's definitely worth having in the collection. It really is. It really is a good album. I really enjoyed it. So last, but certainly not least, this is, for years, this is the only album that I would listen to in the gym. This album would just get me pumped up. I actually bought this to sell because I have a recent repress of this that sounds really good, and then I cleaned it and gave it a spin, and this pressing blows the repress out of the water. It just sounds so much better that I decided to keep this, and I got it for a really good price. I think I paid $19 for this, but this is the second pressing of Appetite for Destruction, and this thing is in mint condition. I couldn't believe I got it for so cheap. I don't know if they just didn't know that this was the first pressing with the cross logo. You know, I see this thing go for 30, 40 bucks all the time. So pop it out. You got the Ratine insert, which is also in excellent condition with no tears. And then what was really cool and what really surprised me, because I have never seen this still in the album, it's got the original Appetite for Destruction sticker. So I thought that was awesome. But like I said, this sounded so good that I decided to keep this one and sell the repress, or I'll probably trade it. But decided to keep this original and get rid of the repress. So pretty much it, guys. This video already ran a little longer than I wanted it to, but again, Immortal Soul from Riot playing in the background. Take care, VC. I know it's been a little while since I did the video. I hope you all had a great Christmas. I know I had a great Christmas and birthday. And if I don't release another video before, also have a wonderful New Year. Take care.